Yeah, ang petuluta kila lila hona mechu umpion ka wapila chichapie. Et kelachje met laat hangt dan yung ka si chango ayate etan wa uksto ayon quickly amachape na la kolia e hake ke kui hemie cha kungashi wa Joe Black Bear chap chahe oglala makoche etan ichachma. I am the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Rosebud Sioux Tribe, and I thank you for hearing me. Our office is responsible for the preservation and protection of cultural resources, sacred sites, the land, the water, all resources, and the traditions of our people, the Sichango Oyate. We do this with the natural wopre and the customs of our people. And that began since the creation of the universe and the creation of time and space. And those are called the universal laws. I heard one time that man-made laws can be broken. But the natural wopre, the natural laws, cannot be broken without repercussions. These laws are what makes us sovereign people. The Tribal Historic Preservation Officers work within the laws of our people, the wopre, and the man-made laws of the imposing culture. And it starts with NAGPRA of 1990. Since then, and this past year, I was reporting in December of 2022 that Rosebud Sioux Tribe had submitted comments to changes, and most of the changes that we requested had passed. So that is good news. And we work with the ARPA, the Archaeological Resource Protection Act of 1979. That is within our office as well. And the National Environment Policy Act of 1970. Under this law, there was two aspects created. One is called the Environmental Impact Statement, and the other is called the Environmental Assessment Statement. And I'll show you in a minute how the laws are manipulated. And so we don't get a clear environmental impact statement, and we do not get a clear environmental assessment statement. And we work with the Native American, the National Museum of the Native American Indian. And this, again, was from the 1989 Act. And within that, NAGPRA and the National Museum of the American Indian Act are closely related, and they are connected as well. So we really can't do much with repatriating items from the museums without the museum's involvement. And then we work with the American Indian Freedom of Religion Act, passed in 1994. And there again, too, there needs to be some work done. So this past year, we did work with NAGPRA. We submitted comments, and then we submitted comments for the National Historic Preservation Act. We are currently working on the Bulletin 38, trying to define what the traditional cultural properties would be for Native Americans. And we want to define them. We don't need anybody to sit in and tell us what our traditional cultural properties are. The law itself says that we define them, and we are going to do just that. Now, language, I know language was discussed, and it is so important that I want to say more about it. Language is crucial in the interpretation of both the natural law, the wopre, and the man-made laws. Language is very, very crucial. And I'll tell you why. As Lakota people, our language is what we call in our language, katian. It is straightforward. We do not manipulate our words. We mean what we say, and we say what we mean. That is our language, katian, straightforward. Now, the language of the other culture, the legislators of the United States government, their language is so easy to manipulate. With the changing of one word, it could mean something completely different. And that is how their language is. And that is how we learn to read them, and we're going to have to interpret them. And in doing so, we need to apply some changes to these laws. So it is up to THPOs and the offices, the staff, to actually look at these laws and interpret them to the best of our abilities and change what we need to and stand on it. We have different concepts as cultures. Our concepts of thought, philosophy are so much different. We look at life differently. We look at the concepts of life, everyday life, so much differently. We are grateful for every day that we can breathe, for every day that we have good health, every day that we can see our relatives. And like Chief Seattle said, you white men, you walk on the graves of your ancestors, and you don't care. We people, we natives, we look at the graves of our ancestors and we honor them. We are different cultures, indeed. Other cultures look at our rocks, our ia, and they think it's just another rock. The archaeologists of the other culture, they look at our rock as just that, an object. They look at them as insignificant, not important at all. But we know from our stories that at the time of creation, Ian gave his blood. He gave everything so that Onchimaka could live and so that we could be here today. They tell our stories, the Ian. I was in a lodge one time when my mother made a remark. She told me, don't be afraid to give them all your troubles, all your problems. They were here first, and they will be here when we're long gone. They will still be here to tell the story. And that is so true. We were a biodegradable people. Everything that we used went back into Uchimanka. But the Iya remains to tell that story of our people. So we have to educate the other side, meaning the Washichu archaeologist, that these rocks are here and that they have a story to tell. The stone circles, the cairns, they give information on birth. Some of these cairns hold the afterbirth of our people. And some of these cairns hold the remains of our people. They give direction. They tell of significant events, of things that happened long ago. The flora, the fauna that we regard sacred, the four-leggeds, the wahupacosa, the crawlers, every plant. They give us food, they give us nourishment, they give us medicine. But that is not the way the Washichu look at our flora, our fauna. We see them as relatives, but they see them as inanimate objects. They see them as inferior beings. They don't look at them the way that we do. Federal agencies tend to compartmentalize life. They do. They don't have a holistic view of life that we do. So they have the game, the wildlife, the BLM, the Park Service, the all the other agencies, the Corps of Engineers looking after the water. So they dissected life as we know it. They have people looking after water. They have people looking after plants, some looking after four-legged, some looking after the winged ones. So they did compartmentalize life. What we call mitakuye oyasi, they took that apart. And so we have to work with all of these federal agencies, whether they're making roads, whether looking after wildlife or the water. They can't seem to get it together so that they have a holistic view of things, of our own chimaka that we do. When I was about 6 years old, I dug a hole. I was digging a hole, and my grandma came out and told me, she said, no, you put all that back. But before I covered it back up, she put a little tobacco in there. And she told me, you never dig a hole. If you do, you dig a hole with a prayer for whatever reason. And you always cover it back up. Because if you don't, you are looking for something to go in there. And I always remember that when I see all these mining companies digging and digging. Takucha olepe lakha, I say. Ena takucha olepi. They're looking for whatever it is, and they will find it. They fail to understand the complete holistic concept of the true people of this land. We are the true people of this land. Where's the drum roll? We are. TCSs, the tribal cultural specialists that we send out, they carry a big, big responsibility. And we do not just pick somebody or anybody and send them out. We set them down and we teach them first their own history of our homelands, the Aboriginal homelands, way up into Canada, way down south. We teach them who they are and the movements of our people, both to north, south, east, west, and up and down. We teach them that there are ethics involved in their work. We teach them about the other side of things, which is the archaeological methods and techniques that are out there. And the 5 Washitu laws that we have to work within. So they carry a big responsibility of not only looking for the remains of our people, remains being both the human remains and the things that were left behind. So they know how to look for them. They know how to record them. We teach them about the natural laws, that while they're out in the field, they never take a life of an animal or a plant. But they have to be able to recognize the medicinal plants out there. And the 4-leggeds, the wingeds that we hold sacred. So they carry a big responsibility, and we so highly appreciate them. Now, they also know, as the scouts that they are, and that's the name I give them, they know to always have the truth.
No. Go ahead.
People really started to recognize the power of activism on Twitter. Based on that one tweet, the hashtag Mr. Silbright was trending. If anything,
Hi, go get my headphones. They're charging at the computer.
So the other culture fails to understand the holistic concept of the true people of this land. And in doing so, we have to look at the history of where they came from and what happened so that they came over here. We have to look at who they were before they came here and after they came here. When you look at the world history of European conflicts, you see that all their conflicts stem from religion, from beliefs, from religious beliefs. And a lot of their conflicts were over resources. If you remember, one of the infamous wars was the revolution in France. What happened there was the wealthier people got wealthier. They got rich off of the Unshika people, the poor people. And there was a lady by the name of Marie Antoinette saying that famous quote she had about let them eat cake. Well, her head was in a basket by sometime later by the poor people. And those are the concepts that they bring here, that they want to deplete resources as they did back in their own country. They depleted the resources basically and needed a new place to get more resources. And here we were living in a wealthy country, wealthy by means of resources, good clean water, trees, medicines. And that's really how I understand what brought them here. So I want to go over one more thing, and that is that the United Nations criteria for a sovereign nation, it includes the land. Sovereign nation must own their own land. But what if that land was stolen? A sovereign nation must have their own language. Their own language. We have our own. It is a bit disheartening because not too many young people speak their language, but to the ones that do, I am so grateful because you are the ones that will keep us sovereign. We have our own social systems. That is another criteria. We do. Billman here, from my mother's mother and his mother's side, we're related. We have blood between us. And he married my cousin from my dad's side. And my younger sister decided to call him her brother-in-law. And so there's some crazy stories between those two, but I won't get into that now. But we do still carry our social systems. I do still see him as my relative, the way that it should be. Government is another criteria. We had our own government system. I want to take that back. We have our own government system. And it's sitting right here in this room. The treaty councils, that is our government system. That is our true government system. Our leadership. We still have our leadership. 2 years ago, there was a ceremony in Rosebud making one of our uncles, an elder, a Yatapika. Yatapika. His name was Victor Duville. His name is Victor Duville. He's the Yatapika from the Rosebud Sioux tribe, from the Sichango Oyate. And last of all, the last criteria that they have for us is actually spirituality. And it has been here all along. And it's something that we need to value more than it has been. It needs to be honored, needs to be done with honor and respect. And although we are an inclusive people, my mother used to tell me that the bowl of that pipe is round. It's inclusive. We are an inclusive people. However, when somebody teaches you something, you do not take it and make it your own. That is what has been happening with our spirituality. The same people that have oppressed our people for so long They wouldn't let us practice our spirituality, calling us heathens and pagans and whatever else. They are some of the people that are taking our spirituality and using it, making it their own. We have to be aware. Be aware of the 7 criteria if we are to call ourselves a sovereign nation. In December, I stood up here asking for unity. Yupdayala, together. Take that word home with you and think about it, and think about how it could be if that little word was to manifest. Yupdayala. I had a relative this morning talk about that. Steve Brave talking about we need to unite as tribes. And I thought to myself, okay, we said that in December. We said it again this morning. I'll probably be saying it again this afternoon, which is what I'm doing. But we need to stop saying it. We need to stop talking it. We need to do it. We need to come together. Yupdayala. Take that word home. Oh, echeglai prinkte mitakoye oyase.